Hey there, and welcome to another video in the series of the az140 labs. My name is Alex, and I will be guiding you through the lab. And in this lab, we are running the lab0202, which is implementing and managing storage for Azure Virtual Desktop. In order to run this lab, you must have completed first the first lab in the course, which is about setting up your domain controller and a client and some virtual networking and so on. So what we'll be doing here is we will be going through the lab. So what we need to do in the Azure environment is we need to create a storage account. So what I need to do first is sign in into the Azure portal. And we have used an account for that, specifically designed for this course. So let me just quickly sign in into that account. And obviously, I hope to remember the password. Yes, this worked. So here we are in the Azure portal. So I did create a couple of things earlier. In the previous labs, we have been configuring an Azure Virtual Desktop. We created a host pool. We created a couple of application groups. There's a workspace. And now in this next step, we are going to create a storage account. So having been signed in into the environment, what they want us to do is they want us to go and sign in into the domain controller here, because there's some of the steps we need to run from the domain controller's PowerShell environment. So here is my domain controller, and I want to be connecting via the Bastion. So I'm gonna sign in with my domain admin account, and let's just go and quickly sign in. I need to allow my pop-up to be signing me in. Oh, all right. The date and time are incorrect. Oh, that is interesting. Sometimes, for some reason, right? Sometimes, for some reason, something's wrong with the time. And as you can see, indeed, it says something about the minutes here. It's a little bit out of sync. So I want to synchronize the time now. Quickly make sure that everything seems to be all right. Maybe my time zone shouldn't be changed at all. So I'll just set it up to be correct. And now let's see if we can sign in again, because this is something that is super important. I still want to be connecting even though the time is different. I just want to be signing in into the device. So here we are. Now, like this, let's just close everything inside the domain controller. So we have been signing in. Inside my domain controller, I need to also open up Microsoft Edge. And then I need to open up the Azure portal again. So this is maybe a little bit strange to take these steps. So you are in the Azure portal, you open up a connection to the domain controller, then inside the domain controller, you open up the Azure portal again. But that is because some of the steps need to be happening from the domain controller. So that is something that we just unfortunately need to accept. So what we want to do is we want to create a storage account. So I'm gonna create one, and then we will have to put the storage account into a new to be created resource group. That resource group is going to be named az14022 for lab0202, module 2 lab 2 resource group. The storage account name has to be any unique name, so you have to make something up. I'm going to use something like storage account ADJ for my initials, 2312 for today's month, and maybe today's date. What is it? 29th of December. Just like this. East US. I'm going to use standard and geo redundant storage. I'm going to leave the defaults here. Then I want to be going through the steps, but I basically want to just allow all the other defaults here. So I'm gonna go all the way back to review, where it will be doing the final validation, and that will create the storage account. This is actually something that you could be doing very, very quickly, less than a minute to create the storage account. Now, the reason that we are creating this storage account is that later in the course, we will be setting up FSLogix. So the reason for us to create a storage account is to create in the end a file share. So if you open up the storage account, then we want to go into the file shares here. And this is where we want to be creating a new file share. The name of the file share is going to be named the name of the lab and then profiles. It's going to be transaction optimized. When it comes to backup, for now I'm going to disable that. The lab is not talking about backup, but if you enable backup, it will also create a backup vault and everything. And we don't need that for this course. So I'm going to disable the backup feature. And then I'm going to create the file share. The next step is going to be a more, it's going to be a little bit of a weird step, because now we do have a file share. We can browse the file share if you want to. We can start creating folders and everything. However, this file share in Azure Files does not support NTFS, and that is something that we want. So the step that we're going to take next is we will be going through the process of enabling Entra authentication for the Azure Storage account, which means that we are going to allow an Active Directory domain service to authenticate users to the storage account. So what we need to do is, in that domain controller, we need to open up a new tab in my browser. And then we want to navigate to the location at GitHub, Azure Samples, Azure File Samples, Releases. If I go to this locations, we can go in and download the file called az-files hybrid.zip. You just click that file, and that will initiate the download of the file. In the end, when the file has been downloaded, we will need to extract the content into the See All Files lab02 folder. So here we have the components, here we have the file. Right click this file, click Extract All. And now you want to make sure that everything is being stored into the C drive. You can see that in my case, it doesn't have a file that is called, it doesn't have a folder called all files. So I need to create a new folder first, just make sure not to do any typos. So I'm going to do all files. And then in the all files folder, I'm going to create a new folder called labs. And in that new folder called labs, I'm going to create a new folder called 02 here. And this is where I'm going to select my output. Just click extract. And it will show a couple of files. A PowerShell script, a couple of PowerShell scripts are here. So with that, I at least now have downloaded the correct zip file. I've extracted everything into the right location. Then from within the domain controller, I want to run PowerShell ISC. And what I should have been doing is just to make sure, because I'm not really sure at the moment, just try again. I want to make sure that I am running this as the administrator. Probably I already did the right thing, but just to be certain that. So now we need to go and run a couple of commands. One command is making sure that we can unblock. Oh, typo. I need to make sure that I have my cursor in the right location first. Then I want to paste the command. This will unblock the file like this. Then I need to connect to an Azure environment. So here we go. And obviously I need to be connecting using my global admin or owner credentials. So I was already signed in with that, so I'm gonna leave that. And then I want to be running a couple of other commands. So let's just first paste everything into the scripting editor here. And what it's now going to do is it's going to create a couple of variables by first connecting into Azure and then trying to figure out what the storage account name is. If you want to be sure that it did the right thing, you can also go and just run the variable here, and it will then tell you what the storage account name was. So here we can see that the storage account name indeed has been found by my script. That is something, just an extra check to see if everything worked in the meantime. So with that, then the next step is we need to run another script. And that other script will now be basically what it will do. It will create a connection or an object in your Active Directory domain service that represents the file share. So here we can see a script. Now, sometimes when you paste in like this, you get to see these kind of weird setup here. It shouldn't be that much of a problem. If you are worried about that, then just make sure that everything is going to be all right. Or if you get some issues with that script, another thing that you might want to do is open Notepad first, paste everything into Notepad. Here you will notice that all my typing is going to be in a more, let's say, proper format, as you will. So if you think that this is better, and in many cases it is, you can just go in and say, hey, let's just copy it to Notepad first. Oops. Control Z. Is that allowed? Oh, okay. I need to paste this again. Sorry for that. Wrong button. This is what you get from running macOS and Windows in certain environments, and switching is difficult for people like me. So here we are. Copy this. Then just make sure to do the copy. Then take this here, and then what we do is a Control V. Now we pasted everything in a proper way. So what we are going to do is we're going to run this script here. The script is supposed to be running quite properly. It will create a computer account inside my Active Directory domain server. So in the meantime, what I can do is go in and open up Active Directory users and computers. Now, in the meantime, before I check, I need to allow this script to run. So it's now running here. It's going to build whatever I need based on the data that it's got from Microsoft Azure. But what we can check here, if we open up the proper organizational unit inside the Active Directory here, you will see that it created a computer object representing that storage account name. That is part of the solution. So here we are, it actually created everything in the proper way. So yes, that succeeded. Then the next steps is that we need to run a little bit more here. It is going to make some changes to the storage account. So it will tell you about the storage account, and it will make a change to the authentication configuration of the storage account. So let's run this. And here we can see the results showing that my organization for some reason allows Active Directory for the authentication towards the storage account. So if you want to be checking the results, you want to go into your Azure. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. You want to go back into the into this environment, and as for now, it says that the authentication method says access key, but if I click refresh, oh, okay, maybe I need to be, maybe I need to check back. So if I do identity-based access, I was actually hoping to see some changes here. So here it's what it wants us to do is we want to select the file share, and we have to verify that Active Directory has been configured. So let me just go into this environment first. Let's open up everything again. Then open up the file share. And now it says identity-based access is configured. So in the lab, they want you to search for Active Directory configured, but we are, because of recent updates in Azure, you want to be looking for identity-based access to be configured. The next step in this lab is that we are going to go through the process of setting up the right NTFS level permissions on that file share. So we need to take some activity here. So back in that domain controller, we have selected file shares, and we need to select the profiles entry here. And this is what it shows. Then what we need to do is we're going to go into access control here. And then on access control, I want to add a role assignment. And in this first role assignment, we are going to assign the role storage file data SMB share contributor to a group called Windows Virtual Desktop users. So here I will be looking for this specific role, which is this one without the word elevated in the first place. So you select this, then you click next, because that's the role that I want to assign. And then I want to select the members. And the members is that group of the Azure Virtual Desktop or the Windows Virtual Desktop users group. Select like this. So now everything has been selected, right? And then we want to, so this is what we want to do. Then we want to do review and assign, and review and assign. So step one is that first assignment. Then I want to do another role assignment. And now I want to be looking for the role called the storage file data SMB share elevated contributor role, this one. And also here, we want to make sure that the group of Windows Virtual Desktop users will get that specific role here on that specific file share. So here we are, Windows Virtual Desktop users, select, review and assign, and this will assign the permissions like it's supposed to be. If you want to monitor or verify that this was successful, check out your role assignments, and you should see something like this. For both roles, the Windows Virtual Desktop users should be the users that will have that role on that specific file share. Now, in task 5, we're almost done with this lab. We can now go in and configure the file system permissions. So back into the ISE, I will have to run a little script again. So let's first paste that into my scripting editor. And what this will do, it will create a couple of variables again. It will get some information. And as you can see here, for some reason, my pasting again goes corrupt. It doesn't work like I was hoping for this. So what I'll do here is I'm gonna get rid of everything first here. Now go back into Notepad. That is not Notepad. I want to go back into Notepad. And then let's get rid of this. And now paste this script again into Notepad. You can see that this works better. It sometimes happens, you know, sometimes in this lab environment, the pasting of the text needs a little bit extra attention. So for this, I'm going to go in and copy everything. Now I want to paste it into my scripting editor like this. And then we want to run the script. It will just create a couple of variables. That's basically what has happened. From that point on, we want to do something else. We want to go in and want to run the next part where we are going to select the file share name, and then we are going to, as you can see, create a drive mapping to that file share. And that is one crucial step. We need the drive mapping to be able to go into the drive and then set up the permissions for NTFS. So what I'll do here is I'm going to run this script, and it's running the net use z command. So if you want to check, you could, for example, try to go into your Azure Explorer, and here we can actually, or in your Windows Explorer, and here we can actually see the connection using the Z drive to that storage account and the file share, right? So this is the content of the file share. Here we could go in and start creating folders if you wish. We don't need to do that for now. The next step is that we need to run yet another command. Let me go and clear my screen a bit. The next step is that we want to run a command called icacls. And this will show the current permissions to the drive that we have selected. So this will just, you know, this is for pretty much the equivalent of going into your Explorer, right click and then check out the security tab. So for example, if I take here the properties of that Z drive, go into security, you would basically see the same things like this. However, to make the lab go a little bit faster, Microsoft created this script here that will quickly push some permissions towards the right, with the right settings towards the right folder here. So here it's going to do a couple of steps. The Windows Virtual Desktop administrators here will get full control permissions. The users will get modify permissions. The creator owner gets some permissions, including list items and change items and modify permissions as well. And we're going to remove a couple of permissions as well. So this is pretty much what this script is going to do. So let's run it. You can see that we have everything worked, no failures. And that is the lab for now. So basically what we've done, we have prepared our file share for later use. Now, the time in the labs that we're going to actually use this is the lab that is about the FSLogix. So when we are going to configure profiles, that is lab 401, and working with applications and so on, that is when we are going to make use of this. But as part of the course, we need to set this up first. So this is lab 202, implementing and managing storage for Azure Virtual Desktop. So hopefully you will found this a useful video. Thank you for joining me. It took about 25 minutes. Thank you for your time, and hopefully you found this video useful. If you do, please like the channel or like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Goodbye, and thank you very much.